Yeah, when she took her own bedding. So now we're online, and this is continuation of Senate Appropriations. And we're looking at housing, and Senator Westman had raised the concern that the housing assistance money, rental assistance money, was insufficient to fund the grants for December for the applications, and that those applications are still pending. And certainly housing is one of the basic needs that we've put a high priority on, and we wanted to understand where, how many applications, what is the money involved, and and in the short term, with knowing that the new federal money seems to have a very significant amount for rental and housing assistance, that that there's this short-term kind of hiatus, and whether this is a basic need that we ought to make sure that these grants get approved and this assistance is continued until we can figure out how what we had in place in the new program that's being funded can move forward. So if I guess, Richard, are you the one probably to tell us how many applications have been received and the fiscal, and how much money you think would be needed to fund the applications that were received and eligible in December? And if it should be Josh, speak up, but I wondered if somebody could give us an update in terms of where the status of the program and this as of December.
I think Richard's definitely best for that, but maybe I could share a quick slide that just summarizes 4 of the housing programs with this real quickly, and then we can jump into the okay. So if I can be given share screen.
Yep, you have been.
Okay. To this one, sorry. Can you see a screen that has Corona Relief Funds housing programs?
Yes.
Title? Okay. So I thought it'd be helpful just to walk through what the Department of Housing and Community Development distributed for funds with our partners real quick to set the stage. Totaled about $36.5 million. The largest being the Rental Housing Stabilization Program. This was subgranted from Department of Housing and Community Development to Vermont State Housing Authority. We held weekly meetings with Richard and his team, the 2 legal aid and Vermont Landlords Association, weekly to keep expanding the eligible uses of these funds. And you'll see at the end of the day, there was a recapture of $3 million back in the fall. If you'll recall, all of these funds had various reports due and check-in points with the legislature, Joint Fiscal Office, and there was time frames where we had to anticipate our spend rate and return funds to be reallocated for other purposes. We also had the mortgage assistance program. It started out at $5 million. You could see the statistics here. I won't read through all these, but prevented foreclosure for 645 homes. Homeowners, we awarded that funding to VHFA to manage. They returned $300,000. Then we had the Rehousing Recovery Program, which was the rental rehab program based off of loosely one of the governor's proposals from the last 2 years called VHIP, Vermont Housing Investment Program. Well, we took that framework and we were able to take existing housing stock that was vacant, abandoned, just sitting there idle in many of our communities across the state, and provide small grants to bring them up to code, weatherize them, replace furnaces, lead paint, windows, roofs with small private landlords. They did this work in a matter of 5 months, and 218 units were brought online with 5-year affordability covenants and targeted to rehouse homeless families coming out of hotels and motels. Then we had the landlord technical assistance, where we worked with our grantee was Vermont Landlords Association. Agency Human Services made a grant to Vermont Legal Aid for their assistance. And those two VLAs worked with the State Housing Authority and us to provide that technical assistance and outreach to all the landlords and all the tenants that were trying to get access to this program. And we continued to work together to expand the eligible uses and develop more programs, which I'm sure Richard will dive into. You might ask, well, what did those reallocated funds go to? That $3.355 million. Well, a couple of the uses that I don't know all of this because it went back to the Joint Fiscal Office and they made all sorts of reallocations of funds. But I do know that some went to the fuel tank replacement program. If you may have recalled, there was a law a couple of years ago that called red tagging tanks, where if they were unsafe and leaking fuel oil, they were red tagged and no longer allowed to be filled. Well, DEC approached us in sort of emergency. Many of these tanks, as fall was approaching, hadn't been fixed. They'd ran through their allocation. And if they couldn't receive money to replace them, those folks have been displaced from their home. So we know that $300,000 was repurposed to fix that backlog for very low income homeowners, many mobile home residents, to be honest. And then, of course, the Everyone Eats program. I know more than $1 million of our funding that was reallocated went to continue that program and that desperate need for food insecure Vermonters and to help restaurants and farmers. And then there was some portion, I don't know, because it all went back to this big pool that probably was used for the tremendous response to the economic grants to businesses and that massive need out there. So I thought it would be helpful just to set that stage of these are the programs that DHCD administered with our partners, the largest of which being Richard's program. And I think it's best for him to talk about the details and the tremendous, unprecedented level of work that was done there, really serving a lot of Vermonters, stabilizing the rental housing industry, which was the point, as well as making sure people could stay in their homes and not be displaced during this pandemic, and also understanding there's an eviction moratorium still in place, and it's very challenging for people on both sides of that issue. So unless there's questions for me, I think Richard could give you the details on that program.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is the reallocation, the identification of money that subject to reallocation and the proposed reuse of that allocation to a large extent came from the administration. So to link it to how they, where it came from to any particular use, it gets a little hard simply because of it going into that larger sort of pot.
Absolutely.
But I didn't realize that 3 million got reallocated out of the housing stabilization. So 25 million, and we so a total of 22 then was actually spent, I would get, as you're saying, after the reallocation. So Richard, do you want to take it from there? Because I think the program that, and Senator Westman, that you're particularly interested in is the rental housing stabilization program that provides the direct assistance to people who are unable to pay rent.
Thank you, Senator. I know you folks are finance people, so you like to get to the bottom line as quick as you can, I'm sure. So
yeah. So how much were we short? The 3 million you got reallocated?
We are short between 2.5 and 2.8. So if we had, be fair to the administration, we were all under deadlines. All departments and agencies were to report back what we thought we were going to be utilizing for funds. Late October, it did not appear that we were going to use all the funds that the legislature had appropriated for this particular program. What happened after that was November and December. And once word got out that the program was going to be ending on December 11th, that we would stop taking applications on December 11th, the applications just, it just increased amazingly. So everything that we had been, budgeting and estimating on what we actually thought we were going to spend, we came in short on that. And so, we gave that number to the administration. It wasn't that they just came and picked it away from us.
No, I know they asked.
So,
And so what you're saying is that was your best estimate at the time, but then events after that in terms of the volume of applications received created the shortfall, and you didn't have as much really to reallocate as you originally estimated.
that's correct. So our last ACH will go out on Friday. We'll spend we have about $1.9 million. That will eliminate any of the funds that we have. So as I said, we're estimating as best we can right today about 2.5 to 2.8. So that leaves about 1,500 applications on the table right now that we could fund if we had this money back, and those payments could go out very quickly. As Senator Westman has brought to the attention of the committee, is that many renters have not been able to pay their rent for December, and many landlords have not received any monies towards their lease payments. So that's our real pressing need right now. And I know some folks were asking questions about, well, the state's going to get this $200 million, for the emergency rental assistance program. We can go down that as far as what we know, but eligibility requirements are going to be much different. There's going to be income tests from what we can see, and that would delay these payments further out. I know that ACCD prepared the application, I believe, for the agency administration, submitted that, I believe, I'm losing track of days. I think that was Monday. And correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but I think 30 days, that 55% of the monies, I think that's, what's that, $110 million will be deposited into the state of Vermont's bank accounts. And then there's a quick turnaround on starting the program up. So what I'm also going to toss a number out to you today is that we'd like you folks to chunk out 50 million of this 200 million as soon as you can to the Vermont State Housing Authority. That leaves a substantial amount of money for the legislature and the administration to determine if there's any other possible eligibility use of this money. And I'm sure you've heard and even thought of probably very creative ways to spend this money. And Josh's office has prepared a substantial list of questions that have been submitted through Congressman Welch's office that will be presented to the Treasury that ask a lot of questions on how we can go about using this money. I'm going to stick to the rental assistance. There may be other programs, Senator Kitchell, that you're very familiar with Agency of Human Services that, in the back of my mind, may be a way to spend some of this money quickly. But we thought we'd ask for $50 million as soon as whatever the process is for us to receive that. We still think it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks maybe to set up a program to start payments out, to be honest with you. So
one of the things that we've talked about, obviously knowing that it's a very significant slug of money coming in with a lot of unknowns, and that is the extent to which we could use. But of course, you were not using that income test. I believe it's 80% of median income for a 12-month period, and I don't know how that 12-month period is being defined, or within that. Whatever, that was the income. So there are a lot of unknowns, the extent to which some of that money may be able to relieve some pressure on the CRF that could be used in other ways. Obviously, permanent housing is one that where there was recapture, and if there had been more time, more work, and property could have been acquired. So there are a whole host of questions and contingencies here. What we're trying to do is something much more short term, and that is, are there immediate pressure points and funding needs that need more action now than maybe through the BAA or whatever. I don't know, Josh, in the budget adjustment that we're getting, is there a proposal around carving out any specific amount for rental assistance? And as Richard was talking about, and we're getting the budget adjustment tomorrow morning. So
I don't believe it's in there right now. I've brought that up as a possible way to deal with some of this. This second round of CRF money is much different than the first. The first was open-ended. We chose to put it towards rental arrearage. Other states didn't. And, I think this big slug we're seeing is a reflection of other states not addressing this tremendous need, and the new money pretty much coming with a pretty formulaic way that you're supposed to put this out and do this. And so, we're hopeful that whatever approval process this $200 million goes through, it's quick, it's fast. We can't wait for this to be in the big budget bill, for example, and wait to the end of the session, because there is timing. We have to spend this money to get the rest of it. I think that, what Richard's presenting, carving out a chunk of it through some, more quick process now, giving us time to answer all those questions that we've sent on is smart. We're also working with the Public Service Department, because it clearly spells out that we can use this money for utility assistance and arrearages as well. So we might have a number of different sub-grantees, if you will, that we can place this money in, number of divisions at AHS perhaps as well. So, there's the A1 process where we accept federal funds. There's the BAA, there's joint fiscal. There's a separate, simple legislation that could say, authorizes us to use a portion of this with 2 sentences that says, per the federal legislation, a program with those conditions shall be developed. I think we're looking for quick action on a percentage of this, and then we can get those rest of the questions answered. One of the things that I am not clear on right now, that's an important distinction, and you already brought it up, Senator Kitchell, was about reusing existing CRF money. I was looking at a paper from the, it's called the Government Finance Officers Association, where they're specifically asking, and I'm sure Stephanie probably is aware of this, they're specifically asking for clarification on this CRF swap out, if you will. In their view, it's unclear that that's eligible. So I think that's a big open question of how we can do that flexibility. There's even terms in this new money that suggests if you received existing CRF money towards assistance, rental assistance, are you eligible for the new money? We have that as a primary question, obviously. I think what is a tremendous new resource for us with this new money is it can pay rent going forward. We couldn't do that with the old money. Richard had to, Kathleen, their staff had to every month process new applications from the same people, wait till they're a day late. This lets us look ahead, which is a huge advantage for Vermonters, that we can pre-qualify on a 12-month basis. My understanding, if they meet the income eligibility based on last year's taxes or some other program, if it's on a monthly basis, because maybe they're only temporarily low income right now, if they have to do that on a monthly basis, we can only approve rent forward every 3 months and they need to be recertified. But either way, it allows an expansion of what Richard and his team did to go forward, which is huge.
Okay. So your proposal would be out of that 200 million, that we has been allocated to Vermont. You want to say 50 million would be used to for the payment of rental assistance and other related utility assistance, which could be water, sewer, electricity. Is that what? I just want to be clear. You know, we're probably getting into areas of other policy committees in terms of. On the other hand, we're not. We're trying to get it so that you can move very quickly once you've got money, and so the argument could be made. All we're doing is saying you've got 50 million out of a pot of money that is for that very purpose. But we probably want to. Have you had any conversations with economic development, the housing committee on this, or are we hearing this for the first time?
I presented to Chairman Stevens last Friday.
Oh, I'm talking about the Senate, though. Sorokin.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. So the House is aware of this, and also the Senator Sorotkin's aware of this. We have not had official testimony before his committee, but there has been an interaction between Allison Clarkson and Senator Clarkson and Senator Sorotkin.
Okay, so they're aware of your desire to at least allocate 25%.
So Senator Kitcher, if I could put a fine point on it, what we're asking for is for the rental assistance side, for arrearages. I haven't had conversation with Commissioner Hannaford as far as what he's thinking that might be set aside, which would be over and above our $50 million for utility delinquencies.
Okay.
We've had conversations with folks in the public service department that ran the last utility assistance program, as well as number of divisions in AHS. Well, we're asking them this very question: scope out what your program needs are, what you think they are, from your available data you have, your best guess going forward, so we can start to develop what this program, this full spend looks like. I don't have firm numbers, just some guesstimates right now, to be honest. So I'd hate to throw out numbers and have them stuck and be completely wrong, but they're doing that work.
Okay, but
and also, Senator Kitchell, I'm not saying that we couldn't spend more than $50 million.
No, I don't.
But I figured that was,
So I think what we're trying to sort out here is, now that we're back in session, our desire is some of this, obviously, this nimbleness we would do through joint fiscal. You come up with a proposal, we review it and approve it. This piece of, what we're trying to do is put together a very, very targeted bill that addresses certain areas where the need and for us to move is very time sensitive. And so one of the questions is, should we move forward and put in some additional language, but at least so those applications in December can be paid. Then the other is sort of like we did in joint fiscal, and that was take a certain amount of that CRF money and put it into different pots. And I think so that we can get moving and have the approval. This is a good vehicle to do that, but I don't know, Josh, is this something that the administration would look at favorably to use this bill that's dealing with really some very limited technical corrections, but to allow us to be very quick. In other words, not tie it up in a much more longer term or larger budget, or even the BAA, which may take, a longer period of time. So I guess that would be my question to you is if this would be a good opportunity to carve out that money, and so that this work can move forward immediately and money can start flowing out in the ways that people want it. I mean, which is obviously it doesn't help people who need it today if it takes us, 6 or 8 weeks. I'm open. I think the committee wants to do what we can to make the money get out in the way that it's most needed and in a way that is really timely as we can. So if you have some proposed language, we would, I think the committee and I would coordinate it with economic development to just say, look, this just gets the money out. This is what it's for. It really is a continuation, but with the changes that are necessary because of the new federal requirements that go with this money. But it would move it as expeditiously as the legislature can move something. So I don't know if you can provide some language on that front for us. Our goal would be to move this bill out in a couple of days. We're just trying to put together sort of a much more technical approach with what's in it.
I will, as soon as I get off this call, try to get insight into that. And, I think everyone shares the same goal of moving this money fast, not having it slow down. To be honest, I don't know the exact preferred method. I'm trying to scope that out myself. Would we want to wrap the utility piece in right away or hold back on that? There's a couple areas here, but I appreciate your thoughts here of how to get this started right away, and I will I'll see what I can find out ASAP.
Okay, all right. That would be very helpful. Bobby?
Yeah, I don't know. I think this probably would be for Richard. I'm wondering, like, say if we did this $50 million, that money wouldn't be spent the day after we approved it. And so it's sitting in your agency. Is that money in a place where it can make money for us with interest for a week or a month?
Don't worry, Beth is sitting on it.
Who is?
Beth, the treasurer.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, that's good.
So just so you know about the 2020 money, obviously we were a grantee with the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. And when that money came, all 25 million came at once to us. And you don't get much for interest anymore, but we did put it in an interest bearing account.
Yeah. Well, it all adds up.
It took us a little while and we had 1.25 billion. So I don't know if we ever quantified how much we got from that. Kathleen?
Had we invested in the stock market somehow, I think we might have tripled it up.
Kathleen, you had a comment?
I did not have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I was going to say, Josh and I got on first and second base, and Kathleen needs to bring us home, I guess. So, if you have any follow-up questions, Kathleen knows the numbers and such. I did file some information through Chrissy this morning for you in a landlord survey that we sent out to about 1,600 landlords. And last time I knew there was a little over 500. And the responses were positive. And we actually had, I think, over 400 landlords are willing to put their name to their testimony. So I think the program was successful. It was, it was hard on the staff here because we worked some pretty intense hours.
I bet if you had to do monthly
that would make it easier. If we can load it in and we can prepay, that's our regular programs. So I don't know if we'd prepay it, do it on a monthly basis, but every 3 months they have to sort of recertify under this new program. So there's
well, the other dimension to this, and that is sort of we talk about small businesses and the pressure they're under, but some of these landlords, in fact, only own 1 or 2 units, and some of them are really very limited incomes themselves and rely on that rental income to pay their, the municipal services and property taxes. And so as long as there's a moratorium and they're having to sort of carry and extend credit basically as a result of that public health policy, it kind of looks at both ends in terms of the financial needs of the tenant, but also that the policy, the fiscal hardships that policy can create in terms of not of the property owners. So we don't tend to think of them quite as much as we do as small business, but in fact, it's kind of a variation, and some have got more than some rental units. So the question for us really is twofold. One of which is, should we move forward to fund the December applications? We know that we do have some CRF money that is available to be reallocated. Certainly the administration is going to be proposing a use for some of it, but there is, but it doesn't take it all. And I guess that's really the question we have as a committee, is whether we want to move forward and say we want to fund the applications through December, and then see how this other program will fit from there.
I think that's a good idea.
And
Okay, Senator Baruth, it's got his thumbs up. Alice,
I'm
you have a
fine.
question?
No, I just agree. I agree.
Okay. And Senator Westman's got his thumbs up as well. So Josh, you can see what our thinking is here in terms of why we see this as sort of a time sensitive, because you've got people who have a demonstrated need, and the money that's needed. We wouldn't have been in this spot without the reallocation that occurred, which is through no fault of anyone.
Yeah.
And
I think the legislature ought to be pretty proud. They kind of nailed it. They allocated the 25, and that's where we came in.
oh, gee, thank you for putting that spin on it, Richard.
And thank you for mentioning that, the business side of this. I mean, that was a very deliberate name, Rental Housing Stabilization Program. If we couldn't provide this relief to these property owners, of which Richard's survey proves many of these were 1 to 4 unit owners,
Yeah.
our housing system would have crumbled, and we would have not only homeless people, but no place for them to go when this is over, because these units would have been utilities off, no mortgage, in foreclosure. And so it was very deliberate why we came up with that name and that process, that it's both sides of this equation.
Yeah.
And I would just add, if I may,
I
Yes,
know,
Kathleen, you want to put yourself on the record, please? Just state your name and where you're from.
I'm sorry, Kathleen Burke with the Vermont State Housing Authority. Thank you. And just, I would like to add, in terms of the urgency in getting the next batch of money out, I think, every month that goes by, we know that tenants are accruing between $3 and $4 million in additional rent arrearage. And so we need to be mindful of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's true. So Josh, I get our inclination, as you can see, is to fund the program through December and include the funding in this bill, because it certainly is a very time sensitive decision. If I can talk with Senator Sirotkin about some of that carve out language in anticipation of the additional money. If you want to, the other thing is, if we move this bill on the Senate side, there's still time to make those kinds of provisions on the House side as well. But if you want to start at least with the 50, and there's language ready to go that we could insert, and we would clear it with our economic development with Senator Sirotkin and Clarkson, then we could start with that, and then it could be modified later on.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not asking you whether the administration's taking a position on the expenditure of this money, because I'm not sure that there is a position at this point. And this is just more a matter of the legislature saying housing and this assistance is a priority. And due to the nature of the timing, the time of year, and the economic implications for both the tenant and the property owner, we think that this meeting this basic human need is top of the list. Is that,
Understand.
am I reflecting committee sentiment? Okay.
Yep.
So if you can think about how you want that 50 million provision, we're certainly open to doing anything to get this money out the door to meet the need as soon as we can make it happen.
Okay.
Comments, Bobby, you've got your, are you
Well,
waving?
I was wondering, yeah, I was waving to you. No, I was wondering, we would probably have to run this by Michael, but then next Tuesday, when we have our caucus, try to make sure that, you know, or have a caucus of the whole to explain this, right?
Well, as long as our housing committee views it as friendly language, in reporting the bill, we would explain it.
Yeah, so we could do it as soon as Tuesday, maybe.
Well, assuming that we had something ready to vote out tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah,
I know
Well, I think that would be good if we could pull that off, because it sounds like it's very much needed and it should be covered.
yeah. Well, we're a pretty nimble committee in
Yep.
getting stuff out. So we appreciate your being available and providing information. And we'll be hopefully getting the language all put together tomorrow afternoon if everything looks good and we are not offending anybody too greatly. Then, well, we sometimes are accused of that.
Oh, yeah.
Then we can move quickly on this side and then the House, because I do think that the components of this bill are don't lend themselves to the time frame that the BAA would normally take.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else that from the administration's perspective, you're not. I know you're. Everybody eats is one of your programs, but that's not in your department, Josh, right? That would be economic development.
Well, it's interesting. It's more of an agency-wide initiative. One of my staff, Gary Holloway, who works for me, the downtown program, he's the main ringmaster of that program. I would hate to pretend I can answer all the questions.
No. We love it. We really like the program. As a matter of fact, we're going to put in language to it so that we know we're extending it right now because of the ability with the FEMA receipts. But we really would like to continue that nutrition program without additional money because of the way the FEMA, now it only has to be 25%.
Right.
Would allow the continuation. So that was one of the things that we just wanted to say from a legislative perspective to have official endorsement of the use of those receipts for that purpose.
Excellent.
Okay. Committee, any other questions of our witnesses? Okay. Thank you for coming this afternoon, and if you can provide us some language, we will be very open to considering it and adding it.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, Senator Kitcho. I'm amazed that you got us in this quickly and in such a favorable response from your committee members. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, you're more than welcome, and thank you. It's just been incredible the amount of work that people have done and the volume of work. And, Josh, you mentioned, well, Gary was doing this, but now he's doing that. I mean, people have been moved all around and really have done yeoman's duty. The thing is, I'm sure staff are getting kind of tired. So at least the end's in sight, and we can go back and harangue you in person, huh?
I look forward to those days.
Yeah. I think
Thank
we
you.
all do.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. So committee, we'll go offline. We're finished.